You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of Fantastic Beasts: The Secret of Dumbledore, the third film in the Fantastic Beasts prequel follow-on from the 8 Harry Potter films. And it arrives in a different universe to the universal praise and love for the Harry Potter films and books, as there's been an enormous amount of problems along the way to this film. One of those being Johnny Depp and the recasting of Depp and the controversy over that. With Mads Mikkelsen, another incredibly loved actor, but a lot of people very uncomfortable with the treatment of Johnny Depp being removed from major projects and Amber Heard remaining in Aquaman 2. I might do a whole piece on this, but for people saying, that there's a lot of very misogynistic reaction to this, but there is a section of people, myself included, that kind of feel double standards. That's what's left a bad taste in our mouth here. And I think a lot of people feel the same. It's like, well, one person's still in a major 10 minutes in Aquaman 2, who will likely become the first actor in modern film history to get booed at cinema. So it's a very toxic environment over there. But obviously Depp's gone, but we've also got JK Rowling. Now, I've got complicated thoughts on JK Rowling, which is anytime a woman comes forward and talks about how being a biological woman is important, they get called a bigot. And I know that she said a lot more than that, and a lot more specific stuff about trans people, but I do continually see any woman claiming that her biological body or ownership of her own story is important. That whole issue is immediately filtered through trans people first, and I don't see that happening with any other marginalised or oppressed group, and biological women are the world's largest marginalised and oppressed group. So I think they deserve ownership of their story before anyone else gets to it. So there's been a lot of bad static around the start of this film, and also the notion that the previous 2 films weren't particularly successful critically. They weren't very well loved. I have partially enjoyed them, but not very much, and not in the same way as the Potter films, which I was a very latecomer to. This one has got the worst reviews of the lot. Although actually it hasn't. Some people are saying it's better than 2. Which was the Nadir. But personally for me, 2 was actually the high point of the whole trilogy. Nothing happens in the sort of start of this film. It's very, very slow to get going. We start with Eddie Redmayne's character, who's so inconsequential I can't even remember. Newt Scamander, which is a terrible name. And he gives birth to this egg in the woods, a deer gives birth to this thing, and he pulls it out, and it's this mythical little baby deer that will apparently bow down in front of somebody that is worthy to lead. And the entire story arc of these 3 films is that the Grimwald villain character is trying to take over the whole wizarding universe, and he's actually a despot, and this little fawn will kneel at him to give him validity that he isn't a pure of heart person. So Grimwald comes along and sends his blokes and minions to steal it, so that he can perform spells on it and turn it into something that will actually bow down to him, validating his quest to rule. We don't find out initially. It's a reasonable plot point, I guess, but immediately after they steal it from Redmayne's character, a twin of this mythical creature is born. So we're set up for Grimwald trying to use his faked version of this deer, and Eddie Redmayne trying to get the real one there to prove that actually he's Hitler, Grimwald's Hitler, and blah blah blah. It's really slow over the start. It's got a terrific middle third, which made me think that we were onto something here, which begins with the character of Dumbledore, here played, I thought, really well throughout by Jude Law, who's excelled as he's gotten older. A lot of actors get better as they get older. And the best plot point in this film should be the worst. It's that they make Mads Mikkelsen's Grimwald and Jude Law teenage lovers. They're gay lovers, which could be the most cringe-inducing insertion of woke culture in a movie. But it actually is great when you've got two male leads, one an antagonist and one a protagonist, and instead of just being against each other, they used to be lovers, and they put spells on each other because they wanted to reshape the world when they were young, and they put a spell on each other just in case the other person turned against them. They can't ever harm each other, which puts the two most powerful, and wisely so as it turns out, which puts the two most powerful people in the movie in a position where neither can actually fight each other, which I thought was the strongest motivation and plot point here by miles. And following from that, the whole assassination thing in this big European house, I think in like a stately dinner, I thought was good. One thing about this whole setting in Germany around, pre-World War II, it's a blessing and a curse, and I think more of a curse, because what they've done is they've alluded to Mads Mikkelsen's characters being a Hitler and the rise of fascism, and they're in Germany, but they don't show any of Germany rising to fascism, which is really incongruous. It's like, why set it there? It's too much. You can't help but think about the rise of Nazism when they're alluding to all these things in the wizarding world, but ignoring them completely in the human world. I thought that was too much. I didn't think it earned the allegories at all. But that whole section, which ends in the funniest thing I've seen probably in any of the Harry Potter films, which was when Newt Scamander's brother is taken by the secret police and put in this pretty horrible prison. Not very nice. I wondered about him hanging upside down for several days. But the crab dancing I found extremely funny. Very, very hilarious, that whole crab dancing section. But it's so episodic. It's like that's quite a big section, and it just doesn't mean anything. It's like he gets picked up by the police, and there's you spend 25 minutes on this section, but it doesn't actually mean anything. We move to Tibet or Bhutan or somewhere, or Nepal. I didn't pay attention. For the final third of the film, which is actually probably the worst third, where all of that good work, which is compelling and atmospheric in the middle, is gone. And that's where they're going to have this climactic vote where all the wizards vote for Nice Lady or for Grimwald to be their leader. And great deal of controversy exists throughout the wizarding world as to which one's the person. So, which one's the best person? So they use the little baby deer to, say that Grimwald's pure of heart, but he's faking it, and so on. It is a really damp squib of an ending. Well, it's not even an ending. It's about 40 minutes of the film. And it's got this sort of caper-like tone to it. It's like a mid-section in a mid-James Bond film, where they decide to go to a location, but not for any reason at all. It didn't need to happen there. In fact, I thought the film was much better set in European locations. It felt a lot truer. For some reason, I don't know why, but it's very sort of incongruous being in this Himalayan setting for no reason. And they don't show much of it, really. It's sort of running around knocking pots over. And when they actually do the whole Grimwald's taking over the world bit at the end, it's really slight. It's not very well framed. The director, David Yates, has nothing to apologise for here. Because he helmed the final 4 Potter movies very, very well. And the first 2 of these. So writing is a major problem here. I thought as Ezra Miller, as the relative of Dumbledore that's gone bad and is put in place by Grimwald to assassinate Dumbledore, Ezra Miller's a great actor. It's a shame at the moment that he is being dominated by his off-screen behaviour and his messy private life, making out that he is just another one of these loony, entitled, probably mentally deranged celebrities that's going to become this car crash that everyone watches. Because everything I've seen Ezra Miller in, he's been excellent. So it's a real shame. But the last third being so flat really gave me time to sort of conjecture over the entire trilogy, and it wasn't good that it gave me that time. It's a very pointless trilogy. There's no reason for it to exist other than making money. The plot for 3 films, getting near 8 hours in length, was Grimwald wants to take over the wizarding world and failing. And that is it. There's just no point to it. The other thing is, I've got a real problem with the lead here. Critics always say that the actors are good in bad films. They're not always. Eddie Redmayne's character I didn't want to. So he plays it with this sort of tilted head and awkwardness like Hugh Grant in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I found it continually grating, but the other thing is he's got no motivation. You could have written this trilogy without adjusting too much, leaving his character out. He's got no skin in the game. He's got no real motivation. He's got nothing really to lose at any point. Some of the other characters I thought were a lot better. Dan Fogler, a triumph throughout for me as this bawdy American, and his love interest as well. Brought a lot of heart to the film. It's not Catherine Waterstone. Alison Sudol as Queenie Goldstein. They have a love affair from the start, and it's by far the most affecting and human thing going on in the screen. The Queenie character was just not as good this time. She was just in the background too much, and Fogel was still a breath of fresh air in the fact that he brought a little bit of dynamic reality and emotion to his character, whereas the others didn't. But I didn't warm ever to the character of Newt Scamander or the performance of Eddie Redmayne. It didn't do anything for me. Mads Mikkelsen's one of my favourite actors, and I do like Johnny Depp a lot. I'd say this, I thought Johnny Depp's version of Grimwald was much superior to Mads Mikkelsen. I thought Johnny Depp's creepy version of him was he convinced me that he was doing it for the wizarding world. He wanted to lead the wizards in that manner for the benefit of all. Whereas they flip it in this 3rd film into Mads Mikkelsen being a bit of a despot and just doing it for himself. I thought that weakened the character. I mean, they introduced a love affair thing with Dumbledore, which was, I thought, really strong. But he ends up being this little tin pot dictator, and I didn't feel like there was the gravity of Depp's character, because there was a plausibility to him getting people to follow him, because he could have been doing it for everyone. They kind of painted it that he was. But with Mikkelsen's character, it's like, you're definitely just doing this for yourself. And the other thing with the Harry Potter movies, I was a latecomer to them. I had no interest at all in watching them. The only reason I did is the Alejandro Cuarón, the Oscar-winning Mexican director, directed the 3rd film. So when they were on TV, I thought, I really want to see that one film because everyone is raving about it. And they had all of them on in a row, so I thought I'd watch the first 2, which I didn't really rate much. But from film 3, virtually to the end, ignoring Deathly Hallows Part 1, every film was great. But the one thing that the Harry Potter films had, which kept me on board from the start, was a sense of danger and an unexpected story arc. Like, lots of those characters' story arcs were immense. Snape, Dumbledore, even the smaller characters like Robert Pattinson, you never really knew from the start of one film to the end how it was going to pan out. There was a sense of high stakes, a sense of danger, a sense that they would throw a major character into the jaws of death and you weren't going to see it coming. The writing of the story by Rowling was the high point of the whole thing. Here, none of that happens. Throughout the whole 3 films, there's never any sense of any danger. Everything seems preordained. I knew exactly where we were going to end up with at the end. The Redmayne character is exactly the same as the end as he is at the start. Mads Mikkelsen says to his character, "I couldn't have done it without you," as though we would actually probably not even factor that in unless he told us. It does occupy that Hobbit world where they made 3 films just to keep rolling in the money, which has happened less and less and less with these films in post-COVID times. So it's just so purposeless, it's so slight, there's no stakes, there's never any sort of danger to the storytelling. The characters' arcs don't go anywhere, other than the sort of Dumbledore, Mads Mikkelsen love interest, which arrives out of nowhere as well. and I thought they made Grimwald outside of that a much less interesting character. So it is a flawed film, and not a particularly interesting way to end the trilogy. I'm going to go for a 4.5 out of 10 for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore.